Back to Hannity. ISIS insurgents in Iraq continue their bloody march toward Baghdad. Now, in just the last few days, the violent militants have expanded the territory under their influence, controlling much of Iraq's western border after seizing 3 more towns and main border crossings with Jordan and Syria. Now, this latest setback for Iraq's military force, well, it comes just days after the president announced he'll be sending 300 U.S. military advisors to Iraq. Here with reaction to all of this is Fox News contributor Colonel Alan West and Fox News military analyst General Tom McInerney is with us. Guys, good to see you. Thank you. Colonel West, let me start with you. There's a two-part question. A, is what we're seeing city and town after town be toppled, ground we had gained through a lot of bloodshed on America's part. Is that a direct result of the president pulling out early? And with that said, what do we do now?
Well, there can be no debate about the fact that we left a vacuum there. As a matter of fact, in August of 2011, I was on a congressional visit to Israel, and Prime Minister Netanyahu said, do not withdraw all of your forces out of Iraq because you will create a vacuum. And so what we're seeing play out is the exact same killing fields of Pol Pot. I think it's 100 times worse. What we have to do now is be focused on the annihilation and destruction and decimation of this ISIS army. It is not just a terrorist organization. As a matter of fact, I read a report where they have already declared that they have a capital in the northern part of Syria, in one of the provinces that they have taken. This is not just a threat to Iraq, it's a threat to our neighbors there, their neighbors there, as well as a threat to our best ally, Israel. And the formation of an Islamic Caliphate will just bode very bad for the United States of America and indeed the entire world.
And what do we do, Colonel?
I think you've got to start striking on them. You have to hit their assembly areas, their base camps. You have to hit their lines of communication, their supply routes.
And intelligence?
You have to have, I think you have the intelligence and the airstrikes initially to soften them up. And I believe that you're going to have to go in and have some type of ground mop-up operation to make sure that you have annihilated this enemy. That's the focus. It's an enemy-oriented focus, not a terrain focus.
General, what are your thoughts about that? Number one, do you think it was caused by retreating too early and pulling out early? And number two, you know, what do you do now, considering so much of the territory that was under their control is now gone?
Well, it was definitely caused by that vacuum that Alan West mentioned, no question about it. The other thing is, look, Maliki lived in Iran for 20 years while he was exiled. The fact is he has a propensity, and he's really aligned with the Iranians. Number one target in that whole region for us is Iran. Let's remember before we do anything. Number two, we need to get the Saudis, the Qataris, the Kuwaitis, the Emiratis involved in this, because they have been behind the funding of ISIS, and we cannot deny that. They are trying to put a Sunni firewall between Iraq and the Levant, and unless we acknowledge that and get them involved, and probably the most important thing is, if we don't get a new prime minister, we've lost Iraq. No matter what we do, we can carry airstrikes, do all of that, Sean, but it's not going to work until we get the Sunnis back into a leadership position where they are included in the government along with the Kurds. Otherwise, we have lost Iraq.
Let me ask you both this, because Rand Paul made some news over the weekend when he said what's going on now. He said, I don't blame the president. He said, but I do blame the Iraq war for the chaos in the Middle East. And he said it's now a jihadist wonderland in Iraq precisely because we got over-involved, not because we had too little involvement. Colonel West, your reaction to that?
I think that that's a very simpleton explanation of global security, strategic decision-making and vision. I think that Rand Paul totally does not understand that part of the world. When the President of the United States of America said that we were pivoting away from the Middle East, he basically emboldened all of the jihadists that are there. And I think an even more question that no one is asking is, why did the President use United States military resources and assets to support Islamist forces in Libya, but he is not doing it in Iraq to go against an Islamist army? So I think that Rand Paul was saying something that may be politically expedient, maybe a populist message, but that does not show the vision of a commander-in-chief.
All right, guys, we're going to have to run and leave it there. Thank you both for being with us. And coming up, Ed Klein's brand new book, Blood Feud, is rocking Washington tonight. He is here tonight in his first interview to explain that Michelle Obama, what her nasty nickname for Hillary Clinton is, and more. And also later tonight,